It's very interesting because, to be honest, I've listened to classical music all my life. I've never been a heavy metal fan.
Yeah.
But when I first started listening to your music, I first thought, oh my gosh, that guy can play. But my second thing was, he's playing Metallica. I didn't like it when it was Metallica, but I love it when you play it.
But that's the great thing. Basically, you can get classical people to start listening to something else, but also the opposite, which is probably, a little bit more important. Get people who don't have the exposure to classical music, and then come to see one of the shows, and I throw some Bach in, and I throw some other classical composers in, and even though like the semi-classical shows I do are maybe not entirely classically based, although there's a lot of classical music in it, the great aspects, and I just see that in when I compare it to Germany, well, obviously this is the first tour in the US, so I really can't talk about the US yet, but in Germany what happens is, through those shows they actually buy tickets to the real classical gigs, where I play a Tchaikovsky concerto or a recital, and that's the main goal, not only to have them in the semi-classical, the crossover material, but them to kind of say, oh, I really like the classical piece, let's see what he does in the classical show.
So some of my young students or young crew might say, why is it important to listen to classical music?
For me, it's very important because it's a huge part of music as well. And if you listen to rock or R&B or jazz, classical music is basically the foundation of everything you're listening to today. So it's a shame if you miss that out.
Well, I agree with you, but I remember being in college and I was listening to La Boheme, and I actually just listened to classical music as a way to seduce dates to stay with me. And my friends would come in, my guy friends, and they'd see that and say, why are you listening to this? And I think all young people listen to young music, or listen to music.
Right.
But I agree with you. Why classical music? Because it somehow is a deeper understanding of music.
And if you can get closer to classical music, you also listen differently to other music. There's a certain kind of education happening when you listen to classical music, even though you don't know it. You start listening more closer to the instrumentation, the different voices, and once you start educating your ears a little bit like that, jazz becomes something totally different, because the funny part is that all the great musicians, if they're rockers or jazzers or R&B, they all have somehow a classical training and classical understanding of the arrangement. So they actually know what is happening, and sometimes, if you are an audience, it's sometimes good to know that, because it makes the musical experience much better.
So when you're playing, like you go to an AC/DC song, is it easier? How is it different?
It's definitely different because there's no guidelines to do it for me. It's not that I can somehow relate to this person or that violinist doing that before. It's a little bit more adventurous. So I've always been somebody who really enjoyed doing something which hasn't been done before, because you have absolute freedom, which is a good thing, but also kind of makes you feel, gives you a lot of pressure because you want to do it right. You don't want to be the first one who does it wrong, but you want to be the first one who does it right. So it's very, very tempting, for me nowadays to really just do something out of the norm, and to kind of find something which makes it work.
So you write music too, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the pieces just sounded here was really beautiful.
Thank you very much.
So what is that experience like? You sit down, in writing we say writing is easy, it's just a matter of staring at the blank piece of paper till your forehead bleeds.
Well, if the blood drops in the right places, it might turn out good.
A note. That's right.
How is that? Funnily enough, the best moments you have are either late at night or early in the morning. Somehow, I think when you had a long day, everything culminates in your brain, and sometimes something just snaps, and you just have a great melody, or you have a great harmonic progression. You just chill there, have a glass of wine, just sit on the piano and kind of doodle around a little bit, and suddenly something happens. or when you wake up in the morning and, God, I've composed a lot of pieces in my sleep. Let's put it like that.
All your songs are good that you write, or some songs we'll never hear?
Oh,
or?
there's so many material which really is not good. But you know, that's normal. It's, I think, very, very. Funnily enough, the pieces which turned out to be very good always go the quickest. Really, always go very, very easily, and you don't really have to think or change the chords too much. Something where you struggle never turns out to be good, even though you want it to become good. It's always like 2-3 days later you listen to it and you're like, it's not it.
But certainly craft frees you to do that, doesn't it?
It definitely gives you, it definitely elevates what you're writing. Even if you have obviously you always start with a simple chord progression. When you hear something, you don't hear the crazy stuff, but then when your craft kicks in, when you can like fine-tune those pieces and say, oh, I'm going to put a 7/9 in there and kind of put a little diminished in here, and I wasn't really changing that and this, twisting it around, inverting that and doing the melody a little different, and then even though you had something good to start with, you can elevate it.
And what would you tell young people in finding their own style, or how to move into what you do?
Just listen and learn a lot. Never be too sure about what you're doing, and just try really to, even if you don't like something, to understand it. I think that's important.